Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Tempest Knives Jetstream. Now, I want to apologize to everybody who's watching, but especially Casey Spyron of Knives Fast. Wow, this took me way too long to review. I'm sorry about that. I still want to give my thoughts despite the fact that I can't find this knife anywhere on the internet right now, but you should be aware of the Tempest Knives website. You should be aware of Casey Spyron, Knives Fast in general. So hopefully this video will serve a couple of different purposes. Number one, anybody who's still interested in this knife and is seeking it out on the secondary market and you just want some additional information. And also so that people are made aware of Tempest knives if they're not already familiar. I'll have some links down in the description so you guys can familiarize yourself if you want to. Thanks to Casey for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. This is actually a really cool knife, and there's a lot of really good things that I have to say about it. So I want to share that with you guys. But let's get some quick specs. Overall length on the Jetstream coming in at about 8 inches. Blade length coming in at 3.5 inches, and cutting edge coming in at 3.35. How about some size comparisons? Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. So up against knives like the 8010 and the 8020.5, I would say it comes in at, really in between. It's nowhere near as robust as something like the 8010, but it's definitely larger than the 8020.5. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? So yeah. We've got another sort of in-between example here. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilianer, in this case, the Ritter Hogue, which I think it's the closest to, minus, I think the general thickness of the knife, and the Hogue Deca. How is the action on this knife? It's actually superb for a couple of reasons. I mean, yeah, it's nice and smooth, and that's great. But the low-profile flipper tab actually works perfectly. It is intended to be light-switched, I have to imagine, because push-buttoning it results in this. So a light switch works much better. Disengaging the lock bar is nice and easy, thanks to plenty of access to that lock bar. And the detent is tuned perfectly for either a reverse flick, which, by the way, thank you very much for not closing off access to this hole on this side. That's something that a lot of designers and knife companies just, I don't know why they screw that up. If you're going to put a hole in the blade, let me put my finger in it. Oh, God, what am I doing? Thank you, though, Casey, for designing this, in my opinion, properly. It really works. Even the forward thumb flick, that's great. There's not much of a safe area. If you're disengaging with one hand and you like to let the blade fall down to your finger, you're going to catch blade. Now, the knife itself, or the blade, is not heavy enough to where I feel like it's going to cleave your fingernail, but be aware of it. I would turn it a little bit sideways, move your finger out of the way, right, and then close it, or just disengage the lock bar and close it like this, however you like to do it. But there you go. The action is very good. The detent is tuned very good. Let's go ahead and do carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's actually just a hair thinner while being contoured, which is worth pointing out. That's really nice. I like that. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This knife really carries beautifully, and it's a size of knife that I personally am familiar with. Well, I carry a lot of different knives, obviously, but this is right there in the size that brings me joy. Even though I don't need to carry a larger knife, I like to carry, I know, it's not huge, right? Let me define that. I like to carry a knife that I consider full size, which is right at 8 inches. You can define that however you want. That's how I define it here. This is a size that I'm comfortable with and that I prefer, despite not really needing a knife of this size day to day. It is definitely shorter than the PM2 and not quite as tall, though I'd still call this on the taller side. It really does carry nicely if you're familiar with knives that are about this size. let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So we have a T8, almost certainly a T8 pivot. Bless it. Is it not? No, it is. It's just me being dumb. And we have T8 body screws. And we have T8 pocket clip screws. And there's a place for you to take the pocket clip and flip it over to the other side. There's a little filler tab there, which has slightly different, like reflectivity. I don't think the texturing is necessarily different. But even though I can see it, I don't know, I kind of like that. It's kind of a nice touch. I like that they kept it flush and kept the same texturing on it and gave it a little bit of contrast to match the pocket clip and backspacer. It's a classy way of doing that, I think. More importantly, lefties, you can enjoy this knife because it is almost just as easy to manipulate despite being a right-handed liner lock. That's really great. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. This will be exceptionally easy to take apart and maintain. Let's measure the blade stock thickness real quick. Blade stock thickness coming in at batteries, the 115,000. So on the thinner side versus your average pocket knife. Did we weigh it? We did not. Let's weigh it real quick. Titanium and this is interesting. It's one of the things I'm going to talk about. 154 cm. Love this. Love the steel. Contoured titanium. Nested steel liner lock. Though all the hardware is titanium. I don't care about the lock bar not being titanium because you'll want a steel lock bar insert anyway, so you have that steel on steel contact. It's just better for the overall life of the lock bar. This is fine. This is great. And I don't have a problem with it, but literally every part of the knife is titanium except for the lock bar and maybe, well, of course, the bearings. 4.73 ounces, honestly heavier than I thought it would be. I thought this was going to come in at about 4.25. That's what it feels like anyway. Balance is probably back from the pivot. Yeah, it's a little bit back here, but no part of this carries uncomfortably. It doesn't feel heavy, right? Versus the knives that I'm used to carrying. If you're used to carrying the mini bug out, this will be heavy to you. So calibrate accordingly. All right, meat and potatoes time. I think this is a good looking knife, but more importantly, I think it's good looking and very, very comfortable. Casey, I love this. I love that you did a shorter pocket clip. It's just great, symmetrical. It's rounded off. It doesn't have a swoop, crazy bill that's going into your palm of your hand or anything. The edges are nicely knocked down. The contouring, I notice it without the knife feeling overly thick. There's jimping in a spot that feels like it is coordinated with my index finger. This is comfortable in a number of different positions. It feels nice. It looks nice. And it still is, it's falling into that aesthetic profile that's the theme of these, which is like stuff that has to do with the air and the sky, right? This is the Jetstream. He had another design that was, kind of modeled after an airplane. This is all on theme. It still looks like that, but I think it looks good, right? I love the blade profile, and it is wonderfully utilitarian. This is my preference for a finish. Good reflectivity, nice tumbling, right? It's great for just general wear and marks and stuff over time. I think my Ritter Hogue has got crap all over it. It's got a couple of marks and things here or there. And I mean, this guy gets used a lot. Yeah, you can see like there's a mark right there, but it's actually kind of hard to find because of the finish. And I like that. It's a nice finish. We're also keeping a ton of the branding and billboarding just off the knife. We have the pivot he always uses, which is fine. We have his logo right there. And then on the other side, just really teeny tiny. You can see it's 154 cm, but everything else, really, no, you're just enjoying the aesthetic of the knife. Huge fan of that. Huge fan of all of this. I believe, now I could be wrong, I believe these are made by Concept. I think it's possible he had a different OEM do these. Whoever he used, very good. If you're not familiar with Concept, they manufacture knives in China, and they do a really good job. All of his designs, his production knives, to my knowledge, have been manufactured in China, and whoever the OEM was for the previous stuff, it's all been great. There's a number of different really high quality Chinese OEMs that do this kind of stuff. And whoever he's been using in the past has done a great job. This is no exception. I know that his newest design, which I believe is also sold out, was done by Concept. So that's why I'm making that, that guess there. I'm not sure that it matters a whole lot. But he does make that clear on his website, who's making them, right? There's no attempt to hide this kind of stuff. So big fan of the text string, right? We see this type of I call it micromilling. I think that's the term that's caught on. Diagonal micromilling, it looks really, really good. Not really enough to create any meaningful traction, but you can feel it and it's satisfying to the touch. Ergonomically, this is a very, very comfortable knife. I'm not going to say it's like S tier comfort, but it's very good. I give it an A-, right? If I was going to letter grade it, it's really to my preferences. There's enough of a swoop in here. You kind of know when you're getting up close to the blade. It feels like it's meant for the human hand. So sometimes that can be tricky, creating a knife that's good looking and feels comfortable in the hand. To a lot of people, I think this might look a little bit boring. It just depends on your preferences, right? It's leaning more towards this simple aesthetic side, but I think it's got enough here that there's a little bit of personality and honestly just a lot of thoughtful design choices that are really important if you plan to use the knife that you bought. So it's nice. Concept does a good job with their liner locks. It's not a geometry that I'm worried about disengaging most of the time, right? Anomalies occur, but in this case, it's fine. It'll survive a quick little triple tap here on my vinyl upholstery and Home Depot table. Yeah, it's good. We have a simple polished backspacer back here with a little lanyard bar, which is a nice way to do that because then we don't have to have a big stupid hole on the frame and we don't have to worry about where to put that in relationship to the pocket clip. So this is a smart way to do that. Pocket clip, like I said, can be flipped over for lefty carry. That's nice. In and out of the pocket, nice and easy because it's straight and there's a ramp right there. No issues. The surface is smooth enough and the texturing is not aggressive enough to where I feel like this is going to attack your pants or the pocket seam, right? So I wouldn't really worry about that. We have a stop pin that's located in its traditional position and there's a ton of shouldering. No blade play up, down, left, to right. No lock stick. No pivot lash. No double clutch. Very, very smooth in here. Whoops. And the detent, as you could see there, is honestly pretty strong. The centering is also very, very good, although I think it's come slightly off center from me playing with it. Not much, though. In fact, I don't know. The edge is done really, really well. We've got like kind of a polished edge here. It reminds me a lot. Now, I don't want to reduce this by saying this name, but it makes me think of Civivi. Civivi does a really, really good factory edge, like an astonishing factory edge for how inexpensive their knives are. And so I mean that as a compliment because it's hilarious how many companies are out there that are selling knives in the $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, up to $1,000 department, and their edge is like ho-hum, right? This is nice. It will slice. That rhymes. Sorry. There's the factory edge on paper thing doesn't really prove much, but man, there's just like no resistance. The geometry here is so good, and the edge is done very, very well. So nice, really nice. Here's what I love the most about this. It's the build and where it lands in terms of pricing. We have he wasn't lazy with this, and neither was Concept, that's who made it, whoever the OEM was. We have nice contoured textured titanium. We have a nested liner. Again, I don't care that it's steel. It's fine. It's what I want anyway. We have a polished titanium backspacer. We have a polished titanium pocket clip. We have a nice finish on a 154 cm blade, which is definitely a blade steel that's, it's fine outside of the budget world. It's not exclusive to the budget world. So the pricing here comes in a particularly difficult zone for a knife to land and be really, really good. According to Urban EDC Supply's listing, it was $139. And you know what? I think they nailed this price. I think this is really, really good. Considering everything that went into it, I think it's the right materials, right? It's the right presentation, level of execution. It's just a good knife. And that is such a weird area. If you're somebody who's been buying pocket knives for a while, or you're somebody who designs pocket knives, or you're an OEM, whoever you are, I think we can all agree that the weirdest zone of the knife world is the $100 to $150 territory. There are knives out there that exist. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's kind of difficult for a truly exceptional knife to land in that price zone. A lot of times it's like when something's really exciting, it's in the budget world. And it's like, holy moly, this is amazing for a budget knife. Or you go to the other end and you're looking at the premium, like 200 plus territory. And you're like, wow, this is like a $400 knife, but it's only coming in at $225 or whatever, right? Rarely do I get excited about a knife that comes in between $1 and $150. Now, I'm not, ready to say that this is like legendary status, the legacy of this knife will stand the test of time. I'm just saying they did a really good job with it considering what the final price tag was. I think that's very appropriate. And I don't have a problem with it. And, even though like people are like, oh, well, that's all good and great, but it's sold out, idiot. So what good does that do us? I'll tell you, shut your mouth for a second and listen. Imaginary person that I'm arguing with. It's good because the implication there is that his future projects will also land, even if they don't land in this particular price point. It means that, like logic would dictate that he will continue to bring this level of quality for all of his projects. So the pricing will probably be pretty spot on. It has been in the past, so that's what I have to assume. This is a great knife. If you can get your hands on this through the secondary market or wherever, let's say he does another run of these, I think that would be a good idea. You can get your hands on this for, right about that price, maybe a little bit less if it's been used. You'll love this. This is really good. More importantly, though, with this being sold out, make sure that you pay some attention to Casey and Tempest knives, right? Check out his stuff. Check out his website. Follow him on Instagram. Find out what's going on because these are cool, right? Everybody wants to have nice stuff that doesn't have nice stuff prices, $200, $300, $400. All that stuff is really cool. I get it. As somebody who collects it, I get it, right? It's really expensive, and it's hard to keep up with stuff like that. So if you can get something really, really nice for quite a bit less, it's always great. So, yeah. Thank you so much to Casey, Tempest Knives, for sending this in for me to take a look at. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Please make sure to follow. Oh, by the way, this will go on my recommended knives playlist. Absolutely, right. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.